As dawn breaks over a temperate pond, an intricate biological clock awakens. For the common pond frog, specifically species like lithobates clamitans, the transition from nocturnal torpor to diurnal activity is meticulously governed by environmental cues. Research from the University of California, Berkeley, indicates that changes in light intensity, even subtle ones below 50 lux, are critical triggers. This initial awakening isn't merely a shift in awareness, it involves a complex physiological recalibration, moving from a reduced metabolic state to one prepared for active foraging and territorial defense. This daily cycle, often unseen, underpins their survival. One of the most immediate challenges for a cold-blooded amphibian is thermoregulation. A study published in the Journal of Herpetology in 2021 highlights that a frog's optimal body temperature for peak activity typically ranges between 20 to 28 degrees Celsius. However, pond temperatures at dawn might be as low as 15 degrees. To counteract this, frogs engage in heliothermy, strategically positioning themselves in sun-drenched spots. This behavioral thermoregulation is not arbitrary, it's a finely tuned process, with a frog adjusting its body angle to maximize solar absorption, sometimes increasing its core temperature by several degrees within minutes, a crucial preparation for the day's energy demands. The internal shifts during this early thermoregulation are substantial. Dr. Ilara Vance, a leading amphibian physiologist, indicates that a frog's metabolic rate can increase by as much as 300% during the first hour of sun exposure compared to its resting nocturnal state. This surge is vital for preparing muscles for hunting and movement. Concurrently, heart rate, which might be as low as 10 to 15 beats per minute during sleep, can accelerate to 40 to 50 bpm. This increased circulation facilitates oxygen delivery to tissues, essential for the heightened energy expenditure that the active phase of the day demands. It's a rapid, efficient biological ramp-up. With metabolism elevated, the frog's primary directive shifts to sustenance. The predominant foraging strategy employed by many temperate frogs is the sit-and-wait ambush. Data from a field study at the University of Florida demonstrated that a typical adult frog might remain motionless for up to 80% of its active foraging period. Its visual system, optimized for detecting movement, allows it to perceive even the slightest twitch of an insect at distances up to 30 centimeters. This energy-efficient approach conserves vital resources, enabling the frog to capitalize on opportunistic prey encounters without expending excess energy in constant pursuit. The mechanics of a frog's feeding strike are nothing short of remarkable. Research from Brown University in 2013 revealed that a frog's tongue can extend and retract within an astonishing 0.07 seconds. This rapid deployment, coupled with the tongue's extreme stickiness, estimated to be 5 times stronger than human saliva, ensures a high capture success rate. The kinetic energy generated during the strike is formidable, allowing the frog to pull prey up to 1.4 times its own body weight directly into its mouth. This specialized adaptation represents a significant evolutionary advantage in securing a diverse insect diet. Maintaining hydration is a constant battle for amphibians, particularly as temperatures rise. Unlike mammals, frogs primarily absorb water through their skin, a process known as cutaneous respiration. A 2018 study in Physiological and Biochemical Zoology indicated that a typical temperate frog can lose up to 10% of its body weight in water per hour if exposed to direct sun and low humidity. However, their permeable skin also allows for rapid rehydration, absorbing water at a rate of up to 0.5 milliliters per gram of body weight per hour when submerged. This delicate balance dictates activity patterns and habitat choices throughout the day. As the sun climbs higher, approaching noon, the risk of desiccation intensifies. Amphibian ecologists at Cornell University report that ambient temperatures exceeding 30 degrees Celsius compel most frogs to seek refuge. This behavioral shift, termed thermal retreat, involves moving from open basking areas into denser vegetation, burrowing into soft mud, or submerging entirely in cooler pond water. While this conserves water and prevents overheating, it also significantly reduces foraging opportunities. This trade-off between energy acquisition and survival from environmental extremes is a defining feature of a frog's daily rhythm. the energy demands of a frog's day fluctuate dramatically. During periods of active foraging and movement, the metabolic rate can be up to 5 times higher than during periods of rest or thermal retreat. For instance, a single leap, propelled by powerful hind legs, can consume energy equivalent to several minutes of motionless waiting. Dr. Marcus Thorne's comparative study on amphibian energetics details that while active hunting yields caloric intake, the cost-benefit analysis often favors a strategy of minimal movement unless a high-value prey item is detected. This optimization of energy expenditure is crucial for survival, particularly during lean periods. Survival for a frog is not just about finding food, it's about avoiding becoming food. Predation pressure is immense. When confronted, a frog employs a nuanced defensive repertoire. Its primary defense is camouflage. Its mottled green and brown skin blends seamlessly with pond vegetation, rendering it almost invisible to many predators. However, if detected, immediate escape becomes paramount. A powerful leap, often followed by submerging in water, can propel it several body lengths away in less than a second. Research indicates that the choice between freezing and fleeing is often determined by the proximity and type of perceived threat. As the afternoon progresses and the intense midday sun begins to wane, temperatures become more favorable for renewed activity. Between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m., a second wave of foraging often commences. This period is typically characterized by increased movement and a higher likelihood of calling, particularly if the frog is a male seeking to establish or reassert territory. Data from a long-term observational study in Michigan recorded a 40% increase in observed surface activity compared to the midday lull. This re-emergence is strategic, balancing reduced desiccation risk with opportunities for feeding before nightfall. The chorus of frogs at dusk is not merely ambient noise, it's a sophisticated communication network. Male frogs vocalize to attract mates and defend territories. The frequency and amplitude of their calls, known as advertisement calls, carry specific information about the caller's size, species, and perhaps even fitness. A 2017 study by the University of Texas found that the dominant frequency of a male's call is inversely correlated with its body size, meaning larger frogs produce lower-pitched calls. Females use these acoustic cues to select mates, indicating a complex interplay between sound and reproductive success. Vocalization, while crucial for reproduction, is metabolically expensive. Biologists at the University of Massachusetts have quantified the energy expenditure of sustained calling. A male frog engaged in active calling can increase its oxygen consumption by 15 to 20 times above its resting metabolic rate. This intense activity requires a significant investment of stored energy reserves, primarily glycogen. The duration and intensity of calling are therefore trade-offs: maximize mating opportunities versus conserving energy. Sources disagree on the exact return on investment, with some suggesting high calling effort correlates with higher predation risk, while others emphasize its reproductive necessity. While many temperate frogs are primarily diurnal, a significant portion of their foraging can extend into the crepuscular and early nocturnal hours. This shift offers distinct advantages: reduced daytime predator visibility and access to a different spectrum of insect prey, such as moths and certain beetles. However, it also introduces new risks, including navigation challenges in low light and encountering nocturnal predators like owls or raccoons. A study from the Ecological Journal noted a 25% increase in capture success for specific insect types during dusk and early night compared to midday, illustrating a clear nocturnal niche exploitation. The decision to remain on land or retreat to water is a critical one for a frog facing a threat. Terrestrial predators, such as snakes and birds, are often evaded by powerful leaps into water, where the frog can either submerge or use aquatic vegetation for cover. Aquatic predators, like large fish or wading birds, necessitate a different strategy: a quick leap onto land or deep burrowing into mud. Dr. Evelyn Reed's extensive field observations highlight that environmental context is paramount, with escape direction and method changing within milliseconds based on the perceived threat. This rapid decision-making underscores their heightened sensory awareness. After a successful foraging period, the frog's digestive system begins its work. Unlike warm-blooded animals, a frog's digestive efficiency is highly temperature-dependent. At optimal temperatures, around 25 degrees Celsius, a typical insect meal can be processed within 8 to 12 hours. However, if the ambient temperature drops significantly, digestion can slow to over 24 hours, impacting future foraging opportunities. This highlights the importance of thermoregulation even during rest. Excess energy not immediately used for activity or reproduction is converted into fat reserves, crucial for periods of scarcity or hibernation. One researcher noted a single large meal could sustain a frog for several days under ideal conditions. As midnight approaches, the frog enters its rest phase. The concept of sleep in amphibians differs from that in mammals. While frogs exhibit periods of reduced responsiveness, lower heart rate, and slower respiration, it's often described as a state of torpor rather than true sleep with REM cycles. Dr. Kenji Tanaka's electrophysiological studies on frog brains show distinct patterns that differ from mammalian sleep architecture. During this time, a frog's heart rate might drop back to 10 to 15 bpm, and oxygen consumption decreases by up to 80%. This energy-saving state is essential for recovery and maximizing survival during inactive hours. During the nocturnal rest period, even in a state of torpor, the frog's body still performs essential maintenance. Cellular repair, immune system functions, and very slow digestive processes continue. The basal metabolic rate, though significantly reduced, is precisely tuned to conserve energy while sustaining life. A comparative analysis by researchers at the University of Zurich demonstrated that the energy expended during 8 hours of nocturnal rest is roughly equivalent to a mere 30 minutes of active foraging. This efficiency underscores the evolutionary pressures to minimize energy waste when not actively feeding or reproducing, ensuring sufficient reserves for the coming day's demands. Even during rest, danger lurks. Nocturnal predators like owls, raccoons, and certain species of snakes remain a threat. While the frog's camouflage offers some protection, its reduced alertness during torpor makes it more vulnerable. A 2019 study tracking predation rates indicated a 15% increase in successful predator encounters during the nocturnal period compared to diurnal hours, particularly for submerged or partially hidden frogs. This suggests a trade-off, the energy savings of rest versus the heightened risk of becoming prey. The frog must carefully select its overnight resting spot, balancing concealment with accessibility for a rapid escape if necessary. Throughout its 24-hour cycle, a frog's oxygen intake strategy is dynamically balanced between its lungs and its highly vascularized skin. During active periods, especially when calling or moving rapidly, the lungs contribute up to 70% of total oxygen uptake. However, when submerged or resting in cool, damp conditions, cutaneous respiration through the skin can account for over 80% of oxygen absorption. This dual respiratory system allows for adaptability to varying environmental conditions and activity levels, ensuring a continuous oxygen supply whether on land or in water. It's a physiological marvel optimizing gas exchange for their amphibian lifestyle. The daily temperature fluctuations in a frog's microhabitat are substantial. In a typical temperate pond environment, the surface water temperature might vary by 5 to 10 degrees Celsius between dawn and midday, while air temperatures can fluctuate by 10 to 15 degrees. For a cold-blooded animal, this range dictates physiological activity. A study from the Journal of Thermal Biology observed that frogs actively seek out thermal mosaics, areas with varying temperatures, throughout the day to maintain their preferred body temperature. This constant search for optimal conditions defines much of their daily movement and habitat utilization, directly influencing their energy budget and survival. A frog's skin is far more than just a barrier or a respiratory organ, it's a vital defense and hydration system, largely due to specialized mucus glands. These glands secrete a complex cocktail of compounds, including antimicrobial peptides, which protect against bacterial and fungal infections. They also produce a slippery layer that reduces water loss and makes the frog difficult for predators to grasp. A recent study by the Smithsonian Conservation Biology Institute identified over 50 unique antimicrobial peptides in the skin secretions of certain frog species. This constantly renewed protective layer is essential for their health and survival in a bacteria-rich aquatic environment. While often perceived as solitary, frogs do engage in limited social interactions beyond mating. During periods of high population density, territorial disputes can occur, often involving physical posturing, wrestling, or aggressive vocalizations. However, aggregations, especially around prime basking or feeding sites, are not uncommon. Dr. Amelia Chen's work on amphibian behavior suggests that while explicit social structures are absent, individuals do recognize and respond to the presence of conspecifics. This can manifest in chorus effects where one male's call stimulates others, or in resource partitioning when multiple frogs inhabit a small area, minimizing direct conflict. A frog's diet throughout its 24-hour cycle reflects its opportunistic nature. While insects like flies, mosquitoes, and beetles form the bulk of its intake, larger frogs will readily consume spiders, slugs, and even small fish or other amphibians if the opportunity arises. This generalist approach ensures adaptability to varying prey availability. A dietary analysis by the Wildlife Ecology journal found that during peak insect hatching periods, a frog's daily caloric intake could double. However, in colder conditions or periods of scarcity, a frog might sustain itself on just one large insect every few days, showcasing remarkable metabolic flexibility. Photoperiod, the duration of daylight, is a primary environmental cue regulating a frog's annual and daily cycles. While specific temperature and humidity influence immediate activity, the lengthening or shortening of days triggers more profound physiological changes. As days shorten in autumn, for example, frogs begin to accumulate fat reserves and seek deeper hibernation sites. Conversely, increasing daylight in spring stimulates breeding behaviors. The 24-hour light-dark cycle, therefore, doesn't just dictate when a frog is active, it provides a foundational rhythm for seasonal adaptations, ensuring synchronization with the broader ecological calendar and optimizing reproductive success. The stark contrast in energy requirements between summer and winter illustrates the extreme metabolic adaptations of a frog. During peak summer activity, a frog might consume several hundred calories per day. However, during winter hibernation, when submerged in cold water or buried in mud, its metabolic rate can drop to less than 1% of its active summer rate. This allows it to survive for months on minimal stored fat. Dr. Eleanor Vance's comparison of amphibian energy budgets highlights this as a critical evolutionary strategy, minimizing resource needs during harsh periods and maximizing growth and reproduction during favorable conditions. A frog's ability to survive its 24-hour cycle is deeply tied to its habitat selection. Optimal microhabitats provide a balance of sun for basking, shade for cooling, dense vegetation for cover, and accessible water for hydration and escape. The Journal of Wildlife Management reported that frogs tend to select areas with a 60 to 70% canopy cover near water bodies, offering both protection and thermal regulation options. Deviations from these preferred conditions can lead to increased stress, higher water loss rates, and greater predation risk, directly impacting an individual frog's longevity and reproductive success. The environment is not just a backdrop, it is an active participant in their survival. Given their permeable skin, a frog's hourly water intake is a critical metric for survival. While direct drinking is rare, continuous absorption through the ventral skin is essential. Researchers at the University of Sydney estimated that a 20-gram frog might absorb 1 to 2 grams of water per hour under favorable conditions to offset evaporative losses. This means replenishing 5 to 10% of its body weight in water hourly. In contrast, under dry, hot conditions, this absorption rate needs to increase dramatically, or the frog must seek immediate refuge. Failure to maintain this balance can quickly lead to lethal dehydration, often within a few hours. A frog relies on a keen sensory suite to navigate its daily challenges. Its large, prominent eyes provide excellent vision, especially for detecting movement, crucial for capturing prey and spotting predators. However, its hearing, particularly attuned to low-frequency vibrations and specific call patterns, is equally vital. Research from McMaster University suggests that while eyesight dominates during diurnal hunting, hearing becomes paramount for nocturnal navigation, predator detection, and social communication after dusk. Sources debate which sense is primary, but it's clear both play specialized, complementary roles depending on the time of day and specific task. The metabolic processes throughout the day generate waste products that must be efficiently eliminated. Frogs primarily excrete nitrogenous waste as urea, a less toxic form than ammonia, which allows for some water conservation. Urination typically occurs several times throughout the day, often triggered by rehydration or periods of submersion. Furthermore, indigestible components of prey are expelled as feces, usually once every 12 to 24 hours, depending on feeding frequency and temperature. This excretory cycle is crucial for maintaining internal homeostasis and preventing the buildup of harmful compounds within the frog's system. While often underestimated, frogs exhibit forms of learning and memory relevant to their 24-hour survival. Studies have demonstrated their ability to learn the location of profitable foraging grounds, safe retreats, and even the calls of specific predators. For instance, researchers at the National Institute of Aquatic Resources found that frogs exposed to a novel predator stimulus exhibited increased evasion behaviors for up to 2 weeks afterward. This suggests a capacity for spatial memory and associative learning, allowing them to optimize their daily movements and reduce risks based on past experiences, an unexpected cognitive layer in their routine. Behind the observable behaviors of a frog's day lies a complex orchestration of hormones. Corticosteroids, for example, fluctuate in response to stress and play a role in metabolic regulation, preparing the body for activity or rest. Melatonin levels, influenced by the light-dark cycle, help regulate circadian rhythms in periods of torpor. A 2020 study in General and Comparative Endocrinology identified distinct daily patterns in several key hormones, demonstrating their precise control over everything from digestion speed to reproductive readiness. This hormonal ballet ensures the frog's physiology is optimally aligned with environmental conditions throughout the 24-hour cycle. Humidity is a less obvious but profoundly influential environmental factor for a frog. High humidity reduces evaporative water loss, allowing frogs to be active for longer periods on land, away from immediate water sources. Conversely, low humidity compels frogs to remain closer to water or seek damp microclimates. Dr. Sophia Lee's research revealed that a 20% drop in relative humidity could reduce a frog's terrestrial activity duration by 30 to 50%. This constant environmental pressure shapes foraging ranges, predator evasion strategies, and even the selection of overnight resting spots, underscoring the delicate balance required for amphibian survival in varying conditions. When faced with an imminent threat, a frog's survival hinges on an instantaneous decision: to freeze and rely on camouflage, or to jump and flee. This split-second calculation is influenced by the predator's proximity, speed, and the frog's own assessment of cover. For example, a slow-moving heron might prompt a freeze, maximizing camouflage. A fast-striking snake, however, demands an immediate, powerful jump. Data from the Behavioral Ecology Journal indicates that frogs choose to freeze approximately 60% of the time when a predator is more than 2 meters away, shifting to jumping when the distance closes to under 1 meter. This dynamic response minimizes energy expenditure while optimizing survival. The amphibian bladder plays a crucial, often overlooked, role in a frog's daily water management. Unlike mammals, frogs can reabsorb a significant amount of water from their bladder back into their bloodstream. This internal water reservoir can store up to 30% of their total body weight in dilute urine, effectively acting as an emergency water supply during periods of desiccation stress. Dr. Paul Davies' work on amphibian osmoregulation emphasized that this capacity is critical for surviving temporary dry spells or extended periods away from water sources, highlighting an ingenious physiological adaptation that supports their semi-aquatic lifestyle. A frog's mode of locomotion is also finely tuned to its environment and purpose. While powerful leaps are iconic for rapid escape or covering distance, terrestrial movement often involves short hops or even a slow walk, particularly when stalking prey or navigating dense vegetation. Aquatic movement, conversely, utilizes powerful swimming strokes. A study on biomechanics indicated that a frog consumes roughly 1.5 times more energy per meter when leaping compared to walking, but achieves speeds up to 10 times faster. This demonstrates a clear trade-off: speed and escape potential versus energy efficiency for routine activities. The choice is a constant negotiation. Human impact looms large over a frog's 24-hour existence. Pesticides and herbicides, often used in agriculture, leach into pond environments, posing severe threats. A study by the Environmental Protection Agency linked common agricultural pesticides to developmental abnormalities, reduced foraging success, and impaired immune function in frog populations. These chemicals can disrupt hormonal cycles, affecting everything from reproductive success to the ability to regulate body temperature. The consequences are subtle but profound, altering the very physiological mechanisms that dictate daily survival, and highlighting how our activities ripple through the natural world. The skin of a frog isn't just a physical barrier, it hosts a vibrant, complex microbiome. Billions of bacteria, fungi, and other microorganisms coexist on its surface, forming a crucial defense against pathogens. Research from the University of Arizona demonstrated that specific microbial communities can inhibit the growth of virulent fungi, like Batrachochytrium dendrobatidis, responsible for devastating amphibian declines. This dynamic, living shield plays a pivotal role in the frog's daily health. Any disruption, such as exposure to pollutants or drastic environmental changes, can destabilize this delicate ecosystem, rendering the frog vulnerable, turning a protective layer into a point of failure. While this deep dive focuses on a typical 24 hours, it's crucial to acknowledge the seasonal intensification of activities during breeding season. For many temperate frogs, this period, often in spring, dramatically alters their daily patterns. Males might call almost continuously for hours, expending immense energy, and reducing foraging time significantly. Reproductive hormones surge. A male's daily energy expenditure can double or triple during the peak of breeding season compared to non-breeding periods. This underscores the temporary but profound shifts in priorities, where survival takes a back seat to the imperative of genetic propagation. The biological drive is immense. The frog's precise physiological responses and reliance on specific environmental conditions make it an excellent bioindicator species. Its permeable skin absorbs chemicals readily, and its dual life cycle, aquatic larva, terrestrial/semi-aquatic adult, exposes it to multiple environmental compartments. Declines in frog populations, or abnormalities observed in their 24-hour cycle, often serve as an early warning system for broader ecological degradation. Dr. Rachel Kim, a conservation biologist, states, "The health of a frog often mirrors the health of its ecosystem." Thus, monitoring a frog's daily survival gives us insights into the health of our shared planet. Beyond the 24-hour cycle, a frog employs long-term strategies for survival. These include hibernation in winter, often burrowed deep in mud or under leaf litter, and estivation in summer, a similar dormant state during prolonged drought or extreme heat. During hibernation, heart rate can drop to just a few beats per minute, and metabolic activity is almost negligible. One study recorded a hibernating wood frog surviving for weeks with its body fluids 65% frozen. These adaptations allow them to endure conditions far outside their active thermal window, extending their lifespan and ensuring population continuity across seasons and years. Pollution extends beyond pesticides. Microplastics, heavy metals, and pharmaceutical residues contaminate aquatic environments, often with insidious effects. A recent study detected microplastic particles in the gut of 85% of sampled pond frogs, though the long-term physiological impact is still under investigation. Heavy metals, even in trace amounts, can accumulate in tissues, leading to neurological damage or reproductive issues. These unseen challenges add layers of stress to a frog's already demanding 24-hour struggle for survival, subtly undermining their resilience and placing unprecedented pressure on amphibian populations worldwide. The depth of a pond is a critical factor influencing a frog's daily and seasonal survival. Deeper ponds offer more stable temperatures, providing cooler retreats in summer and unfrozen depths for hibernation in winter. Shallow ponds, conversely, are subject to rapid temperature fluctuations and are more prone to drying out or freezing solid. Research indicates that frogs in ponds with an average depth of 1.5 meters or more exhibit higher overwintering survival rates, sometimes by as much as 30%, compared to those in shallower habitats. This geographical attribute profoundly shapes their daily behavior and long-term prospects. The intricate balance of a frog's daily life can be violently disrupted by invasive species. Bullfrogs, for example, are voracious predators that outcompete native species for food and prey upon them directly. Invasive fish can consume frog eggs and tadpoles, drastically reducing reproductive success. A comprehensive review by the Conservation Biology journal highlighted that invasive species are a primary driver of amphibian decline globally, exacerbating predation pressure and altering habitat dynamics. The introduction of non-native species can transform a relatively safe pond into a death trap, fundamentally changing the daily challenges of frog faces. Even sunlight, essential for thermoregulation, poses a threat in the form of ultraviolet (UV) radiation. While frogs can synthesize protective compounds, prolonged exposure to high levels of UVB can damage DNA, suppress the immune system, and reduce larval survival. A study by Oregon State University found that increased UVB penetration due to thinning ozone layers led to a 20% reduction in egg hatching success for some amphibian species. Frogs mitigate this by seeking shaded areas during peak UV hours and remaining submerged. It's another example of a delicate balance, where a necessary element also carries inherent risks to their daily well-being. While less studied than chemical pollution, noise pollution also influences a frog's 24-hour cycle, particularly its critical vocal communication. Anthropogenic noise from traffic, industry, or human recreational activities can mask advertisement calls, reducing mating success and territorial defense effectiveness. A study published in Ecology Letters showed that male frogs in noisy environments had significantly reduced call rates and altered call frequencies, impacting female mate choice. This sensory disruption adds another layer of stress, forcing frogs to expend more energy to communicate or risk reproductive failure, a silent threat to their daily and long-term viability. Leaf litter, often dismissed as mere debris, provides crucial microhabitats and resources for frogs. It offers insulation, reducing temperature fluctuations during rest, and serves as a hiding place from predators. Critically, it also supports a rich invertebrate community, providing a consistent food source for foraging frogs. Research from the Journal of Herpetology indicated that pond edges with ample leaf litter supported 40% higher frog densities than those without, attributing this to enhanced shelter and food availability. This seemingly simple element is a cornerstone of a healthy frog habitat, directly impacting their daily success and survival. Beyond physical defenses, many frogs produce a variety of toxic or noxious compounds in their skin for protection against predators. The production and secretion of these compounds are often influenced by circadian rhythms and physiological stress. For instance, some species show an increased concentration of alkaloids in their skin during periods of peak activity, when predation risk is higher. A biochemical study revealed that the potency of these compounds could fluctuate by up to 25% over a 24-hour period. This suggests a dynamic chemical defense system, finely tuned to the daily challenges and threats faced by the amphibian. While vision and hearing are prominent, olfactory cues also play a subtle but significant role in a frog's daily life. Frogs can detect chemical signals in water and air, which convey information about predators, prey, and conspecifics. For example, tadpoles are known to release alarm cues when injured, alerting other tadpoles to danger. Adult frogs might detect the scent of a snake or the chemical signature of a potential mate. This chemosensory perception, though often overlooked, guides foraging, predator avoidance, and reproductive behaviors, forming another crucial layer of their complex sensory world within the 24-hour cycle. A frog's skin, so central to its survival, requires constant maintenance. Shedding, or ecdysis, occurs regularly, typically every few days to weeks. The old layer of skin is often consumed by the frog, recycling valuable nutrients. This process not only allows for growth but also removes accumulated parasites and maintains the skin's permeability and mucus-secreting capabilities. Any disruption to this shedding cycle, perhaps due to environmental stressors or disease, can severely compromise the frog's health, impacting its ability to respire, thermoregulate, and defend itself, thereby directly affecting its 24-hour functional capacity. The demanding 24-hour cycle in the wild exacts a heavy toll. While a typical temperate pond frog might live 2 to 5 years in its natural habitat, its captive counterparts, free from predators, environmental extremes, and food scarcity, often live significantly longer. Data from zoological parks show some species reaching 10 to 15 years, a 200 to 300% increase. This stark difference underscores the constant, intense pressures of survival in the wild, where every decision and physiological process contributes to a shorter, harder existence. It is a testament to the resilience of wild frogs, but also a stark reminder of their daily struggle. The brain of a frog experiences profound shifts throughout its 24-hour cycle. During active foraging and social interaction, neural activity is high, processing complex sensory inputs and coordinating rapid motor responses. In contrast, during torpor or periods of deep rest, brain activity significantly reduces, though essential regulatory functions persist. Electrophysiological studies have measured a 60 to 70% reduction in overall brain metabolic rate during these resting states. This allows for maximal energy conservation, redirecting resources away from high-level cognitive processes, yet maintaining a baseline level of neurological function crucial for detecting imminent threats or environmental changes. Global climate change introduces new layers of complexity to a frog's daily fight for survival. Rising temperatures can push frogs beyond their thermal tolerance limits, increasing desiccation risk and forcing changes in activity patterns. Altered precipitation regimes can lead to more frequent droughts, impacting breeding sites and water availability. The Global Change Biology journal reported shifts in amphibian breeding seasons by an average of 11 days earlier over the last 2 decades in some regions. These broad climatic shifts ripple down to the micro level, fundamentally reshaping the 24-hour rhythm, turning once predictable cycles into unpredictable challenges. Beyond general olfactory senses, many frogs possess a vomeronasal organ, or Jacobson's organ, which specialized in detecting non-volatile chemical cues. This organ, located in the roof of the mouth, becomes particularly active when a frog is tongue-flicking or pressing its mouth to surfaces. It allows for detailed chemical analysis of prey, potential mates, or predators. While its precise function in temperate pond frogs is less understood than in snakes, researchers theorize it aids in close-range identification, contributing to their foraging efficiency and social dynamics. This nuanced chemosensory system offers yet another layer of interaction with their environment. Artificial light at night, or ALAN, is an emerging threat. Streetlights, building illumination, and other sources disrupt the natural light-dark cycle. This can confuse nocturnal foraging patterns, alter calling behaviors, and interfere with melatonin production, impacting circadian rhythms. A study in Germany demonstrated that frogs exposed to artificial light at night had significantly delayed or reduced calling activity, leading to decreased reproductive success. This pervasive form of pollution subtly but fundamentally reconfigures the environmental cues that have guided a frog's 24-hour existence for millennia, forcing adaptations that may not be sustainable. While adult frogs are generalist predators, their previous life stage as tadpoles exhibited a vastly different dietary strategy within their 24-hour cycle. Most tadpoles are herbivorous grazers, feeding on algae, detritus, and plant matter. Their finely tuned mouthparts and gut morphology are adapted for filtering small particles. This fundamental shift in diet from larva to adult underscores a profound developmental adaptation. During the tadpole phase, continuous grazing is essential for rapid growth, allowing them to accumulate sufficient energy for metamorphosis, a process that requires immense caloric investment and fundamentally reshapes their entire physiology. When camouflage and escape fail, some frogs employ specific anti-predator postures as a last resort. This can involve inflating their bodies to appear larger, displaying bright flash coloration on their undersides or limbs to startle a predator, or even exuding noxious secretions more rapidly. For example, some species adopt an uncan reflex where they arch their back and expose aposematic colors. A 2015 study noted that such displays increased the likelihood of predator hesitation by an average of 35%, buying crucial seconds for escape. These are high-stakes, last-ditch efforts within their daily survival repertoire. The relentless march of urbanization fragmenting natural habitats poses a grave and accelerating challenge. Roads, buildings, and manicured lawns create barriers that isolate frog populations, limiting gene flow and access to critical resources like breeding ponds and foraging grounds. A meta-analysis across several continents indicated that frog populations in urbanized areas experienced a 60% higher rate of decline compared to rural counterparts. This habitat loss and fragmentation directly impact a frog's ability to complete its 24-hour cycle effectively, reducing opportunities for feeding, mating, and escaping danger. Their future is increasingly constrained by human expansion. While most frogs exhibit no parental care beyond laying eggs, a few species demonstrate remarkable deviations, fundamentally altering their daily routines. Some carry eggs on their backs, in vocal sacs, or even in their stomachs, providing protection until hatching. These behaviors drastically shift the parent's 24-hour priorities, often reducing foraging time and increasing vigilance. For example, marsupial frogs dedicate significant portions of their day to protecting their brood. This rare but vital parental investment highlights the diverse strategies within the amphibian world, demonstrating that a day in the life can vary dramatically based on species-specific reproductive commitments. For tadpoles, the larval stage of a frog, a specialized sensory system known as the lateral line is crucial for their aquatic 24-hour survival. This system detects water movements and vibrations, allowing tadpoles to navigate, locate food, and detect predators in murky water, even in complete darkness. It functions similarly to hearing but for pressure changes. As the tadpole metamorphoses, the lateral line system regresses and is eventually lost, replaced by the adult's terrestrial senses. This highlights a profound evolutionary trade-off, optimizing sensory perception for distinctly different environments and lifestyles between life stages. Periods of low oxygen, or hypoxia, can be a daily reality for frogs, especially in stagnant ponds or during prolonged submersion. Frogs have evolved remarkable adaptations to cope. They can shift to anaerobic respiration, producing energy without oxygen, though this is less efficient and builds up lactic acid. Some species increase their blood's oxygen-carrying capacity or reduce overall metabolic demand. A study on common pond frogs found they could survive up to 48 hours under near-anoxic conditions by drastically slowing heart rate and metabolism. This resilience to hypoxia is critical for surviving overnight in oxygen-depleted pond bottoms or during hibernation. A typical meal for a temperate pond frog is a fast and furious affair. Once a prey item is detected and within range, the strike is initiated with incredible speed. The entire sequence, from tongue extension to ingestion, often takes less than 100 milliseconds. A study utilizing high-speed cameras documented that a frog might consume anywhere from 5 to 20 small insects during a single active foraging bout, depending on prey availability and its own hunger levels. This efficiency allows them to maximize caloric intake during short windows of opportunity, balancing energy expenditure with the immediate reward, a critical calculation in their daily survival. While not a daily event, a frog's regenerative abilities are a remarkable aspect of its physiology, impacting its long-term survival within the 24-hour framework. Young frogs and tadpoles can regrow lost limbs, tails, and even portions of their jaws or eyes. While adults retain some capacity, it diminishes with age. This ability is crucial for recovery from predator attacks or accidental injuries encountered during their active periods. A researcher from the Marine Biological Laboratory noted that a tadpole can regrow a severed limb within weeks, a testament to the complex cellular mechanisms that support their resilience in a dangerous world. Every morning, the frog's internal circadian clock, though influenced by light, needs subtle environmental reinforcement. Specialized photoreceptors in the skin and brain, separate from the eyes, detect ambient light, helping to reset the internal rhythm. This ensures that the frog's physiological processes, from hormone release to metabolic rate, are precisely synchronized with the external environment. A study from Vanderbilt University highlighted how even blind frogs maintain a nearly normal circadian rhythm due to these extraocular photoreceptors. This robust internal clock is essential for their daily anticipation of environmental changes, optimizing their readiness for each new dawn. While this analysis covers a generalized frog's day, it's important to note variations between sexes, particularly during breeding season. Males typically exhibit longer periods of sustained vocalization, higher mobility for territorial patrols, and potentially reduced foraging success due to preoccupation with mating. Females, while not calling, engage in significant energy expenditure for egg production and subsequent movement to breeding sites. A 2022 study found that male daily energy expenditure can be up to 150% higher than females during peak reproductive phases, whereas females have higher basal metabolic demands for gamete production. These different roles define their distinct 24-hour priorities. Even within a small area, a pond environment presents significant temperature gradients that frogs exploit throughout their day. The surface water, edges, and vegetated areas can vary by several degrees Celsius within meters. Submerged logs, rocks, or mud offer thermal refugia. This thermal mosaic allows frogs to fine-tune their body temperature. A study mapping pond microclimates observed a frog moving through as many as 5 distinct thermal zones within an hour, maintaining its body temperature within a narrow 3-degree optimal range. This active thermoregulation through precise habitat use is a continuous, vital component of their daily survival strategy. Respiration for a frog is not a simple inhalation-exhalation. It's a complex, multifaceted process. Pulmonary respiration via lungs is buccal pumping. Air is drawn into the mouth, then forced into the lungs. Cutaneous respiration through skin is passive diffusion. Pharyngeal respiration, through the lining of the mouth, provides supplementary gas exchange. The balance between these methods shifts continuously based on activity, temperature, and water availability. At rest in water, skin might handle 80% of oxygen. On land, lungs take over for up to 70%. This physiological flexibility is central to their adaptability and crucial for energy regulation throughout the day. The phenomenon of pond turnover, driven by seasonal temperature changes, significantly impacts a frog's living conditions. In spring and autumn, as water layers mix, oxygen and nutrients are redistributed. While this can refresh the habitat, rapid turnover can also bring anoxic water to the surface or stir up sediment, temporarily disrupting foraging and rest sites. A limnological study of temperate ponds indicated that frogs often seek deeper, more stable waters during periods of intense stratification or turnover. This adaptation to dynamic aquatic conditions is another layer of their daily environmental negotiation, optimizing their location for stability and resource access. A frog's skin coloration, critical for camouflage, is not static, it's often influenced by its diet. Carotenoids, pigments obtained from consuming invertebrates that feed on plants, play a vital role in developing the vibrant greens and yellows seen in many species. A deficiency in these dietary pigments can lead to duller, less effective camouflage. Research indicates a direct correlation between dietary carotenoid intake and the richness of specific chromatophores in the skin. This highlights how foraging success throughout the 24-hour cycle directly translates into survival advantage, with a well-fed frog literally better blending into its environment. Over a 24-hour period, a frog's movement can be surprisingly extensive, particularly for males during breeding season or when foraging pressure is high. While some individuals remain largely stationary, others might traverse distances of 50 to 200 meters from their primary resting spot. Studies using passive integrated transponders, pit tags, have tracked individual frogs covering over 300 meters in a single night. This movement, often between feeding grounds, breeding sites, and thermal refugia, requires significant energy expenditure and highlights the scale of their daily interaction with their habitat, far beyond simple static existence. Road mortality represents a devastating anthropogenic impact on frog populations. During nightly migrations, particularly to breeding sites or between different habitat patches, frogs frequently attempt to cross roads, leading to mass casualties. A study in Ontario documented over 1,000 frog fatalities per kilometer of road during peak migration periods. This threat is particularly acute at dusk and dawn when frogs are most active and visibility for drivers is reduced. This highlights a tragic contradiction: the very infrastructure that facilitates human movement creates impassable, lethal barriers for the daily and seasonal movements essential to amphibian survival. For a frog undergoing metamorphosis, a single 24-hour period is a crucible of rapid, fundamental change. Tadpoles lose their gills and develop lungs, tails shorten, and limbs emerge. This process is metabolically intensive, often requiring the tadpole to cease feeding temporarily as its gut restructures. The shift from herbivorous grazer to carnivorous predator involves immense physiological retooling. A study on developmental biology illustrates that this transition period is one of the most vulnerable stages, with high mortality rates due to the radical internal and external transformations necessary to equip the frog for its adult terrestrial or semi-aquatic life. Beyond its individual 24-hour struggle, the frog occupies a pivotal ecological niche. As both predator and prey, it forms a critical link in many food webs, controlling insect populations and serving as a food source for birds, snakes, and mammals. Its presence, or absence, reverberates throughout the ecosystem. A robust frog population indicates a healthy aquatic and riparian environment. Conversely, their decline signals imbalance, a breakdown in these intricate interdependencies. Understanding a frog's daily rhythm thus offers a window not just into its life, but into the vitality and resilience of the natural world itself. Every hour of a frog's 24-hour cycle is packed with critical decisions, driven by instinct and finely tuned physiological responses. Where to bask, when to hunt, how to evade a predator, whether to vocalize, each choice carries consequences for survival and reproduction. These decisions are not conscious in the human sense, but are the product of millions of years of evolution, optimizing behavior for a dynamic environment. From the micro-adjustments of thermoregulation to the life-or-death calculus of escape, the frog navigates a complex world, its existence a testament to the power of natural selection shaping daily rhythms. Beyond environmental degradation and habitat loss, emerging infectious diseases pose a significant and growing threat to amphibian populations globally. Pathogens like the chytrid fungus, Batrachochytrium dendrobatidis, and ranaviruses can devastate entire populations within a 24-hour cycle of exposure, leading to mass die-offs. Climate change exacerbates these threats by stressing immune systems and expanding pathogen ranges. Researchers are working urgently to understand these disease dynamics, which often spread rapidly through frog communities, turning what might be a routine day into a struggle against an invisible, lethal foe, adding another layer of fragility to their existence. Despite the myriad challenges, from predators and environmental extremes to anthropogenic pollution and disease, frogs continue to persist, a testament to their remarkable resilience. Their ancient lineage, dating back hundreds of millions of years, speaks to an extraordinary capacity for adaptation. Each 24-hour cycle is a reaffirmation of this resilience, a continuous negotiation with an ever-changing world. While many populations face decline, the fundamental biological strategies that have allowed frogs to thrive for eons remain, offering a glimmer of hope for conservation efforts focused on preserving their critical habitats and mitigating human impacts. As the sun sets on another day, the cycle begins anew. The frog, poised at the water's edge, is a microcosm of biological ingenuity. Its 24-hour journey is a relentless pursuit of balance, thermoregulation, hydration, energy acquisition, and predator evasion. Each moment is a calculation, each behavior and adaptation refined over millennia. This deep dive reveals not just the mechanics of survival, but the interconnectedness of all life in an ecosystem. The story of a single frog's day is, in essence, the unfolding narrative of nature's enduring power and fragility.